Before you speak, if you've ever been in a relationship, I don't want your fucking opinion. I don't want to hear your fucking opinion about how I need friendship and community and to love myself. I don't want to hear your fucking opinion. If you haven't dated anyone in 10 years plus, you can speak, but quietly. Don't speak too much. Now, my bitches that have never been in a relationship, no talking stages, no situationships, nothing, to the front. I want to hear your voices. Everyone else, be quiet or shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I don't need love. I love myself. I don't need friends. I have friends and I love them and we're great. When I talk about things related to being single my whole life, like, God, the fucking shit that I get is so ridiculous. So I don't want to hear it unless you've also been single your whole life. Before, I've never been in a relationship before. To be honest, this is a safe space. Never held hands with a man before. Yikes, I know. And it's really unfortunate because I think that, like, now I'm okay. Like, now I'm good. But it had the biggest impact on my self-esteem when I was younger, because I was like, okay, I'm just an ugly fucking monster that nobody wants, I guess. And I would think, like, I have friends that love me, I have family that loves me, but, like, nobody wants me in that way and, like, the way that I craved. And so it really impacted my self-esteem and made me hyper aware and was like, okay, maybe I'm just weird and, like, everyone knows something I don't, or maybe I'm just, like, coming off as an awful person even though I don't feel that way. So it makes you, like, second guess your entire being, because it feels sometimes so easy to see everyone else hopping in and out of these relationships, and it's like, damn, bitch, you've had 10 and I can't even fucking get one, so it must be me. Anyone before, and you need to stop fucking telling your friends you can't see them in relationships. You need to stop fucking telling them that, because it's actually really fucking rude, sick, twisted, and evil. Why would you look at someone, see them yearning for love, and then say, yeah, I can't imagine a world where that exists? Are you fucking dumb? That's so crazy to say that to someone. And I also have friends that are just like me. We're in this together. And I've never once thought that. It's like, actually, I can see exactly the kind of relationship you need to be in with exactly the person. Matter of fact, let's go on The Bachelor. Girl, I'll pick all the men for you, because I know exactly, like, who you are, what you want, and what you need. Not like, I can't see a world in which someone would ever love you. And the argument that they'll say is just like, oh, like, I just can't see that because it hasn't happened yet. Bitch, believe. You've never had a fucking dream before Black History Month. Believe, bitch. Hello. At this point, I'm afraid to, because men are scary and evil. They're scary and evil. What if one day he wakes up and decides he hates me and wants to kill me? What if he has a secret group chat where he's racist about me to all of his friends? What if one day we have this beautiful family and he loses his job and he's like, actually, you know what? I'll kill myself and kill my entire family. Men are really scary. They're really scary and evil. Or what if he just pretends to like me so that he can have sex with me? What if he does that? What if he just pretends to like me so that he can have sex with one of my friends? I don't know. Men are scary and evil, and I want to be in a relationship, but I don't know if I'm sweating it that much when I realize that most men are evil. Like, oh, might as well get dressed and see if a man will like me today. Maybe I'll change my hair and maybe, just maybe, a man will finally fucking like me today. Do I look fucking dumb? And on that fucking note, actually, do you think, maybe you're just not feminine enough? Maybe you're too fucking aggressive? And do you want me to sit here and be demure and just, like, bring myself down just so a fucking man will like me? I'd rather be alone for the rest of my goddamn life than perform for men. Than to wake up every day thinking about what will attract a man. What can I change about myself so that a fucking man will want me? You need to look at your fucking self and conceptualize why you're thinking and think about your actions in your life and how you've changed your fucking life to attract a man. And maybe that's why you fucking hate yourself. And maybe that's why you keep telling people that have never been in a relationship before that they need to fucking change themselves. Because maybe it worked for you. And maybe, just maybe, you wake up every fucking day thinking about how you fucking hate yourself because you started doing this to change a man. You started doing your edges to change a fucking man, putting this fucking outfit on to change a man, not speaking up about your fucking rights to change a man. And maybe when that man says something you don't fucking like, you keep your fucking mouth shut just so that you can fucking keep him and keep your bed warm at night because you're fucking afraid of being alone. I've been alone for so long, bitch. Men are completely decentered from my life. So why the fuck would I give a fuck about what a man thinks about me? 24 and I've never dated anyone before. I've never been in a relationship before. To be honest, this is a safe space. Never held hands with a man before. Yikes, I know. And it's really unfortunate because I think that like now I'm okay. Like now I'm good, but it had the biggest impact on my self-esteem when I was younger because I was like, okay, I'm just an ugly fucking monster that nobody wants, I guess. And I would think like I have friends that love me, I have family that loves me, but like nobody wants me in that way and like the way that I craved. And so it really impacted my self-esteem and made me hyper aware and was like, okay, maybe I'm just weird and like everyone knows something I don't, or maybe I'm just like coming off as an awful person even though I don't feel that way. So it makes you like second guess your entire being because it feels sometimes so easy to see everyone else hopping in and out of these relationships, and it's like, damn bitch, you've had 10 and I can't even fucking get one, so it must be me. I've never been in a relationship before, and if you're gonna tell me to get a fucking makeover, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. What do I look like changing myself for a fucking man? Do you think I wake up every day like, might as well get dressed and see if a man will like me today? Maybe I'll change my hair and maybe, just maybe, a man will finally fucking like me today. Do I look fucking dumb? And on that fucking note, actually, do you think, maybe you're just not feminine enough? Maybe you're too fucking aggressive? And do you want me to sit here and be demure and just like bring myself down just so a fucking man will like me? I'd rather be alone for the rest of my goddamn life than perform for men. Than to wake up every day thinking about what will attract a man. What can I change about myself so that a fucking man will want me? You need to look at your fucking self and conceptualize why you're thinking and think about your actions in your life and how you've changed your fucking life to attract a man. And maybe that's why you fucking hate yourself. And maybe that's why you keep telling people that have never been in a relationship before that they need to fucking change themselves. Because maybe it worked for you. And maybe, just maybe, you wake up every fucking day thinking about how you fucking hate yourself because you started doing this to change a man. You started doing your edges to change a fucking man, putting this fucking outfit on to change a man, not speaking up about your fucking rights to change a man. And maybe when that man says something you don't fucking like, you keep your fucking mouth shut just so that you can fucking keep him and keep your bed warm at night because you're fucking afraid of being alone. I've been alone for so long, bitch. Men are completely decentered from my life. So why the fuck would I give a fuck about what a man thinks about me?
All right, all right, all right. So I wanted to come with a bit of receipts. What's going on? Like, share, subscribe, everybody, as you are joining in. Y'all know the drill. I am trying to wrap up this conversation that we've been having over the last few weeks on Black women dating and specifically the low marriage rate. So, if you haven't already, you can go back and check my first live I did about 2 weeks ago. I actually did a live yesterday. I ran into some issues with AdSense for some reason, so I'm actually re-premiering the live that I did yesterday tomorrow. So if you want to check the live that I did yesterday, go back and do so. It's going to re-premiere tomorrow. Slightly edited version, but there are more receipts there where we just go over more reasons I believe that Black women are struggling in the dating and mating market. But the last thing that I wanted to cover off that I didn't have a chance to cover off of the last two lives is this viral post that I saw from a woman who basically was talking about not only her dating experience, but doing more of like a think piece and a statement of the state of dating Black men in general. So I do have some more receipts for you. As always, I have to give a special shout out to Mr. Z and these receipts that I just shared of this particular TikToker because this is a 24-year-old woman who openly admits that she is not in a relationship. She is very clear about some of the frustration that she faces by not being in a relationship. She's very clear about how frustrated she is when other people tell her she may not find a relationship, and yet and still we see um it seems as if what's the word, it seems as if there is this inner battle, right, that she displays even within their own talking points. She has multiple videos where she's talking about her desire to be in a relationship, but then the last video that I showed you, you see how she is very, very passionate and actually quite angry at anyone suggesting that she in any way modify herself to become more desirable in a relationship. And this is the kind of tension that we see. I wanted to highlight her because I think she is just one individual, but she represents a large population of women who are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And one end, they have bought into feminism. They have bought into this idea that men are evil, that men are trash, that men are good for nothing, and that, you know, you need to decenter men and all of the different things associated with men being evil. So they've bought into that. But then they're also fighting with their innate biological desires to strictly be with a man. You know what I mean? So there's this tug of war of this feminist programming, which is anti-male, you know, hate men, hate everything to do with men, never do anything to please a man, never do anything to that's going to be desirable for a man. But at the same time, they're fighting with their own biology, right? And this is something I think a lot of women face because much of the programming that I believe they get goes against their actual biological instincts. And so that's why I wanted to show this content creator. I feel like she's expressing in real time, in real form, the very mental challenge that women have, right? Being told that, being told in some ways, even encouraged to be independent, to be self sufficient by yourself, to not need a man, to dissenter men, to be happy by yourself, to be fulfilled by yourself, to find fulfillment outside of romantic relationships, outside of connection with men, outside of any familial connections, just to be happy in and of yourself, you and your girlfriends. And so you're told that, and in many ways, women may actually fashion their life according to that model, but then they hit a certain age and biology kicks in. And they struggle. They struggle sometimes to admit it. And even if they do admit it, when they're faced with the reality of what it may actually take for them to now transition into another phase, transition from maybe single life or decentering men to actually being in relationships with men, they crash out. They get angry, they push back, they fight back. They're upset about the idea of having to make themselves desirable to a man. They're upset at the idea of having to modify any aspect of themselves, even if it's something minor, in order to be more desirable. They hate that idea. And this is a tug of war that a lot of women actually face. So that's why I wanted to show those examples. I thought it was just sometimes you just gotta let people speak. You just gotta play, let them speak, you know, and they themselves tell the whole story. Now I want to transition real quickly. Actually, shout out to Kevin C. He actually mentioned this on yesterday's live. Evidently, Ari Lennox, she had went on to talk about her own relationship woes and some of the different challenges that she has had, or ultimately what she's learned over her mistakes. So I wanted to play this real quick because I think this is another, again, this is another component. These are another trends. These are other things that go on in the Black love and the Black dating and mating space that I ultimately can sabotage Black woman's success. So I'm going to just let her speak for herself, and then we're going to break it down.
I think I have a thing for toxic energy. So I think there's still some more healing that I need to do because when I look back on all of these energies, um, it's a shame I gave them so much time and there were sweet energies that I didn't. And
Yeah.
so now I see those sweet energies getting married and starting families. I'm just like, dang, that
Mm,
probably could have been me if I recognized the security in those individuals at the time. And like now I'm like Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that now. I'm aware that there's something going on. There's something wrong.
What do you think it is that attracts you to like toxic energy?
I think they just seem really exciting at first. The chemistry is incredible. And they don't even always be fine. It's not even that like they're sexy or something. I mean, well, they're sexy, but they don't be the finest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's just an energy. It's sometimes it's convenience, what we talk about. A lot of those the sweeter energies that I felt like weren't for me. I felt I could see myself falling asleep a little bit on the phone. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that's like i- if boring is good or not. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out what that means. Like
It's the thrill.
yeah.
It's the thrill of it.
Yeah,
What's your sign?
absolutely.
Okay, so that was a really quick minute snippet, but I think she said a lot. Now, notice how she talked about energies. Women, we love to talk about energies. But she was talking about the sweeter energies versus the more exciting energies. And she wanted to talk about how she was drawn to the exciting energies, but unfortunately, the quote, exciting energies or the exciting men um, ultimately didn't have the necessary qualities that would lead to a long-term relationship, whereas the men who would and were nice, were sweet, were kind, did have the qualities, the character, and the wherewithal to actually, take it long term. Those were the ones that she said that she could find herself falling, asleep on the phone with. And so, um, I can appreciate her willingness to acknowledge that she actually might need some more healing. Her being willing to ask herself, okay, so what is it about me that's attracted ultimately to unavailable men? What is it about me that's attracted to the kind of men who actually don't have a history nor have the desire to give me any serious commitment in relationship? What is it about me that tends to overlook the men who could actually give me what I want? Like I actually, applaud her for being willing to come to that conclusion, because some women never do. Some women get to a particular point and all they do is just blame all men, and they never ever once stop to look in the mirror and say, okay, is it me? Was it me? And so she went on to see these men, she said he had good energy. She went on to see these men move on, marry, and have happy, successful, I'm sure, fulfilling relationships. And that's something that she wants for herself. So, I mean, shout out to her, for doing the work. But I think what she said is crucial, because while she's talking about her own personal experience, she certainly is not, she's not a one-off, and she certainly is not, I would say, she's not rare. She is not rare. Her bristophilia is very, very, very real. All y'all have to do is look up prison bays, okay? All y'all have to do is look up, prison brides and prison girlfriends or whatever. And there was an entire algorithm. I mean, a show that I was binge watching at one point was Love After Lockup, and it was an entire series dedicated to women who were falling in love with men who were locked up, right? Who were getting in relationships, starting relationships, sometimes even marrying these men who were locked up. And so, what she is describing is not a unique phenomenon to her. It is not something that is specific to her. What she's describing, I think, is actually really very much in very many ways ingrained in female psyche. Now, to what extent and to what level, is that's all up for debate. But she's just being honest. She's being honest about something that a lot of women actually deal with. And y'all remember, let me see, I may play this again. I may play this one more again for y'all. I may play this one more again for y'all. Some of you guys seen it, some of you have not. But do y'all remember that interview I did years ago with the granny? Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I'm gonna play this again. I'm gonna play this again because here you have a 34-year-old, Ari Lennox, talking about how she recognizes how she passed up the good guys for the sexy, for the exciting guys, and now she's kind of regretting it. And so she's having to go back and actually ask herself, okay, do I need further healing in order to accept a good guy? But now I want to show you another example. This is an interview I did a few years ago. This is a dear friend of the family of mine. This is a 70, I think now 71-year-old I can't even say ex, retired housewife, right, with 7 grandkids, kind of it would appear as if she kind of had the white picket fence life. She certainly didn't, but a housewife of four. She grew up with a housewife of four. In a nice suburban family. Has 7 grandkids now and spends her free times babysitting her grandkids. So she's coming from a completely different setting, a completely different environment than many Black women, than many of these quiches whom y'all like to call. But I want to hear y'all talk about the kind of men that she was even attracted to in her age. And I want y'all to notice how some of this stuff, it's not even just, it's something that I think collectively can find themselves into. Even old white housewives can acknowledge it. So I'm going to play this again for those of you guys. Some of y'all may have seen it, some of you guys may have not, but it's just a quick 3 minutes.
I was dating someone after my first marriage, and this guy's brilliant, had PhD in psychology. Oh my gosh, he did things like didn't watch television. He was a true intellect. He waited on me hand and foot, and believed he asked my dad if he could marry me, and my dad said, well, ask her. And the answer was no. You are an awesome human being, but let's be honest. I want to say this to the women. Sometimes we just don't want someone who treats us good all the time because we're not used to it. And that happens in a lot of dysfunctional families when there's especially domestic abuse. You come in and you don't even know. You're looking, it's like in a alcoholic codependent, and you just like together and you're bonded. You just like relate, feel comfortable. That's not necessarily love either. It's familiarity.
Yeah.
What is comfortable.
But you're saying, and you're talking about when you're unhealthy and you haven't done, I guess, your work.
Right.
And you find yourself attracted to toxic people. And because you're toxic and they're toxic, it feels comfortable because that's your environment.
Yeah.
And that being distinctive from being in a relationship, that is healthy. And you guys are honestly bonding.
Right. And if I had been dishonest with myself about that man who wanted to marry me and send me to college and do all these things, there was not the chemistry. I think marriage requires some chemistry. I think it's part of what God gives us to be attracted to one another.
Yeah.
But if I was strictly going by a list, I mean, he was the perfect man.
But it sounds like he was just too good.
I said,
I think he just was too nice.
I think you want me to beat you up and bring you flowers. And I thought about that. I said, you could be right.
He told you that?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He told you, yeah. So he just was too nice.
He was,
and at that time, you weren't ready for the.
I was too dysfunctional. I couldn't figure out what to do with him. Yeah, like that's nice too weird.
Really, they say nice guys really do finish last, and sometimes that's true, unfortunately. Especially
if you find a really dysfunctional human being.
Yeah, fair.
You're not. That's really sick. I was so sick. Oh my God.
Okay, so that's a quick 3-minute snippet. I just wanted to share it to you because if you guys see in the video, she basically said how she went on to talk about how there was an amazing man that she knew when she was much younger. He had a great job. He was very kind to her. He was, on paper, he was perfect. He wanted to put her through school. He was doing all these different things. He was incredibly kind. And she was just bored. And, he went on to basically say, I think you want me to abuse you, then you'll be attracted to me. And she basically was like, actually, I think you're right. Right? Like that's essentially the conversation that we're having. And so she's admitting that at a particular time, she actually recognized that she was attracted to abusive men. So much so that when good men came into her life, she thought they were boring. She admits this. So I'm saying that because you have a 70-plus-year-old housewife who's essentially in some ways acknowledging the very thing that Ari Lennox said, which is, why is it that I was attracted to these quote exciting unquote but toxic men, and I was literally overlooking good men? And she had a actual real life example of a good man who was very stable, I think went on to be very successful, financially stable, all that kind of different stuff, whom she passed up because he was boring. He was too nice. And Ari Lennox said the same thing. So this issue isn't something that uniquely impacts Black women. However, it is something that Black women also deal with, right? And that is the fact that I think to a certain extent, we don't even know how to. In one instance, we say we want a good man. In one instance, we say we want a husband, we want a family. But quite frankly, we don't even know how to pick one. We don't even know how to position ourselves to find love. We're not even prepared or trained to do that. Because in one instance, we may talk about how, we're sad or we're lonely sometimes or we're this or this or that. And so we say we want these things, right? We say we want these things, but then when those good things are presented to us, we may look down on it. We may overlook it because it's too boring. We may look past it. We may talk ourselves out of it. We may judge it. We may degrade it. Or in some instances, we may just be downright mean. Right? We may not even be able to meet that person where they're at. So there's all these different coping mechanisms. There's all this different behavior sometimes that can actually be keeping women from getting what they actually want. And that's what I appreciate about Ari Lennox and her interview, where she was willing to acknowledge that maybe that there was something inside of her, maybe there was some healing or something that she needed to do in order to ask herself and identify why she was actually attracting a certain kind of men and overlooking good men. So, shout out to her for having self-awareness. But I think more women need that, because I think we're really comfortable talking about the ways in which men don't show up and talking about the ways in which Black men are emotionally inept, and there's a whole laundry list. You already know of all the bad things that they say about Black men. Nobody has a problem hearing that, but we don't really want to talk about the ways in which sometimes Black women show up that are lesser than, or that can actually be undermining their own relationship success. So shout out to her for that. Also, shout out to you, the 18th letter with the $9.99 on this super chat. Here it says, I want to show some support, Shay Sade. Some of these women lack so much self-awareness. It's insane. They're like drones that lock onto a target and explode on contact. Boring equals bad, toxic equals good to them. You're absolutely right. Good is boring, and exciting is toxic. It's bad, unfortunately. So it's you're right. And at that point, a person is just moving from a place of trauma, from a place of brokenness, from a place of familiar spirits, however you want to put it. They're not moving from a healed, healthy place. And so that in many instances, that does need to be addressed before a person can actually be able to attract what they think that they want. Okay, so I wanted to share that now onto the next, or the final portion, the one that I've been trying to cover off the last two lives. Now, I wanted to circle back and do this at another time because this was going to require a bit of a discussion. But what I wanted to do was look first and foremost at this particular. This was actually a post that was sent to me, and it got a lot of traction. I would say it went viral. And it was based upon this woman over here to the right. You see, I kind of have a screenshot of her, but it's her basically telling her experience of being in the dating market and what it's been like for her being a successful, educated Black woman, and what it's like for her and women and successful women like her being in the dating market. And the reason why I wanted to share this is because while to a certain extent, she's speaking for her experience, she's very much, I think, echoing incredibly popular mainstream talking points that we've all heard for quite some time. And she's just pretty much, in my opinion, regurgitating them or repeating them, or in some ways, reinforcing them in 2026. And so you see this particular post, it has over 120, I think 7,000 likes. And so this post was insanely popular. It had a lot of people talking. And the focus here is the state of dating Black men in 2026. So before we get into the state of dating Black men in 2026, I want to just briefly remind you some of what you lovely individuals, what Black men are also running into.
I've never been in a relationship before. And if you're going to tell me to get a fucking makeover, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. What do I look like changing myself for a fucking man? Do you think I wake up every day like, might as well get dressed and see if a man will like me today? Maybe I'll change my hair and maybe, just maybe, a man will finally fucking like me today. Do I look fucking dumb? And on that fucking note, actually, do you think, maybe you're just not feminine enough? Maybe you're too fucking aggressive? And do you want me to sit here and be demure and just like bring myself down just so a fucking man will like me? I'd rather be alone for the rest of my goddamn life than perform for men. Than to wake up every day thinking about what will attract a man. What can I change about myself so that a fucking man will want me? You need to look at your fucking self and conceptualize why you're thinking and think about your actions in your life and how you've changed your fucking life to attract a man. And maybe that's why you fucking hate yourself. And maybe that's why you keep telling people that have never been in a relationship before that they need to fucking change themselves. Because maybe it worked for you. And maybe, just maybe, you wake up every fucking day thinking about how you fucking hate yourself because you started doing this to change a man. You started doing your edges to change a fucking man. Putting this fucking outfit on to change a man, not speaking up about your fucking rights to change a man, and maybe when that man says something you don't fucking like, you keep your fucking mouth shut just so that you can fucking keep him and keep your bed warm at night because you're fucking afraid of being alone. I've been alone for so long, bitch. Men are completely decentered from my life, so why the fuck would I give a fuck about what a man thinks about me?
Never dated anyone before, and honestly at this point I'm afraid to, because men are scary and evil. They're scary and evil. What if one day he wakes up and decides he hates me and wants to kill me? What if he has a secret group chat where he's racist about me to all of his friends? What if one day we have this beautiful family and he loses his job and he's like, actually, you know what, I'll kill myself and kill my entire family? Men are really scary. They're really scary and evil. Or what if he just pretends to like me so that he can have sex with me? What if he does that? What if he just pretends to like me so that he can have sex with one of my friends? I don't know. Men are scary and evil, and I want to be in a relationship, but I don't know if I'm sweating it that much when I realize that most men are evil.
All right. So I just wanted to real briefly, go over some of what, men themselves are also running into as well. When we're talking about the state of Black love, we're talking about the state of dating in Black America today. I do think it's important to understand what people are experiencing on both sides of the spectrum and the different ideas that they're running into. But with that said, let's go right into the post that I wanted to, let's see, sorry about that. Let's go into what I wanted to cover off today. As I mentioned, this thing got over 126,000 likes. And so today we're going to look at the state of dating Black men in 2026. This was a viral post that actually had, I would say, about at least 2 parts following it. And so that's what I want to go over today, is some of the ideas, some of the talking points, the beliefs that have been circulating and are continuing to be circulated. And basically, essentially what that means for us today. So it reads, the state of dating Black men in 2026, a field report from a successful Black woman who refuses to struggle for love. Now, real quick, for those of you guys, if you just want a brief breakdown of the successful Black woman, this is the successful Black woman who wrote this particular post. I don't know exactly her background, but it sounds like she's a corporate girly. She calls herself the corporate BFF. It says a down-to-earth material girl. So, you kind of get a sense of who she is. She does a lot of writing. She's posted herself at different conventions. So this is the particular individual who is writing this think piece about her experience with Black men. Just wanted to give you guys some context. You can also go check out her page if you want. You can check out her channel. All of that. Okay. And yes, she would be considered light skinned. And how is that important? Is that not important? Depending upon who you're talking to, but she would be considered light skinned. Okay. So, let's go over it. Okay. So it says state of dating Black men in 2026, a field report from a successful Black woman who refuses to struggle for love. Now, I think the question is, okay, how do you define success? Because I do think that can vary by person, but I'm assuming for the sake of this conversation, success is going to mean college educated, someone who's been able to secure a nice corporate stable job that is well earning, and someone who can essentially afford to live a moderate level of luxury. Anyways. So moving on. So it says, a year ago, fresh out of an 8-year relationship, I decided I was going to date intentionally, which is adorable. The last time I dated was 2013. Instagram barely mattered. Nobody was optimizing their personality for the algorithm. Men were not podcast educated. High value was not a personality trait, and the phrase soft life had not yet been weaponized. Dating in 2026 is an entirely different ecosystem. So, already out the gate, I always find it so fascinating personally when I hear of people who have been in 8, 9, 10-year relationships and then they like break up. Because to me, I'm like, how are you just dating somebody for that long and you don't know whether or not you want to, move forward or not? Listen, I was dating my husband for a year before he proposed. So for me, I'm like, if you haven't made that decision within the first year or two, then it's like, okay, what are we doing? So I always find it so fascinating when there are women who are in these like super long-term relationships and it never converts to marriage. And unless you are a woman or somebody who's actively like opposed to that and you are like anti-marriage, anti-institution, which most are not, but unless you're a woman who is actively opposed to that, I just think it's me personally, I don't understand how women are able to be in these long, basically quasi marriages without actually somebody proposing and like it moving forward. To me, that just seems like it would be a waste of time past a certain point. Nevertheless, she was in an 8-year relationship and then it ended. And she said that was back in 2013. She said she has not dated in 2013. So that's almost 16 years now? 16 years. She says now dating has completely changed in 16 years. And so I ask myself, okay, if based upon your own admission, you have not dated, and by dating, I'm assuming you're saying you have not been in a committed relationship for 16 years. What is going on? And as we're reading these things, as we are reading these ideas, I want you guys to look at it from the perspective of a woman talking about a man, and then also flip the genders and look at it from the perspective of a man talking about woman. And I want you guys to ask yourself whether or not the reason or the logic stands in both cases. If the logic stands no matter what gender it is, then I think it's actually reasonable. But if the logic falls apart, if the gender was switched, then I think we should investigate what's actually being said. Okay? Because I want you guys to imagine a man who, writes a whole think piece about the state of dating Black women and says, I haven't dated for 13 years. And somebody wouldn't look at him and say, okay, well, what's the problem with you? What's going on with you? So yeah, so I think it's interesting. If I hear somebody say, okay, I haven't dated for 13 years, no, 16 years in this instance. No, I take that back. It is 13. Sorry, my math, y'all. Sorry, 13 years. I think that it warrants a larger conversation, and that's essentially what we're doing. Okay, moving on to the next part. Okay, so it says, and because 99.99% of my experience has been with Black men, this is a reflection on what I've observed there, not a universal doctrine, not an attack, not a dissertation, just lived experience, conversations with other successful Black women, and patterns that are too consistent to ignore. Okay, so respectfully, anytime I hear, especially an educated Black woman and a Black woman that has, a little bit of class or whatever, anytime I hear her preface any sentence with, I'm not trying to attack you, I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I'm not trying to undermine you. Anytime I kind of hear that setup, I'm absolutely expecting the next sentence or the next phrase to be total and complete BS. You know what I mean? That's just me. When I hear it, when there's a long explanation or a long setup to what they're actually going to say, I'm like, oh yeah, we already know what time it is. This is just me. I'm not saying this is absolutely right, but for me, when I see this kind of different stuff of like, oh, this is not me trying to attack, this is not me trying to, turn down, this is not me trying to whatever, then I'm like, okay, what you really about to say? That's going to be disrespectful. That's just me. Okay, so on to the next particular post. It says, here's what I'm seeing. Now, this is what this is the corporate BFF. This is what she is seeing. Her and other Black women in her condition. This is what they're supposedly experiencing dating Black men in 2026. 1, supply, demand, and the ego of it all. It says successful, educated Black men are in high demand, and they act like it. That's not shade, that's economics. When supply is limited and demand is high, the market shifts in favor of the seller. Okay, I don't think that's necessarily a controversial. Now let's flip it. Successful, educated Black women, we are not rare. We are statistically empowering in education. We are building businesses. We are buying houses. We are healing. We are therapized, and we are evolving. So this is the section of the conversation that I think things, in my opinion, start to go really left. Because first of all, successful, educated Black women actually are rare. Now, the way that it's talked about, the way that it's actually promoted, you would make it seem as if every Black woman that you meet in person anywhere is highly college educated, who is running a multi-million-dollar business, has multiple homes. You know what I mean? Like the way Black women are oftentimes positioned and talked about, it's as if every last one of them is successful. But when you actually look at the numbers and just break down the educational attainment, they're not. Yes, more Black women have college degrees than Black men. Yes, that is true. But it's not an overwhelming majority of Black women. I mean, it's still a minority of Black women who actually end up having higher education. Let's just hop real briefly over to, the basics, Black demographics. Like I said, this is just basic stuff. This is not even me being a statistician or whatever that name is. This is just some basic stuff. If you look at Black educational attainment by gender, over 25. So we see, okay, graduate or professional degree. Only 9% of Black women have a graduate or professional degree. Now, granted, this is based upon the U.S. Census Bureau from 2027, so it's probably changed slightly since that. But if we understand the rise in education, if we understand the cost of inflation, whatever, it likely hasn't changed dramatically. Particularly when you understand how a toughening economy has actually made it harder for men and women to actually enter the educational realm. So, 9% of Black women, right, give or take. That's rare. You're talking like higher education, PhDs, all that different stuff, doctorates. Black men at 6%. Okay, so Black men at 6%, 3% less. But to me, that's still not significantly different. Okay, bachelor's degree, 14% of Black women, bachelor's degree, 12% of Black men. Okay. 10% of Black women, 7%. Okay, 25%, 23%. Like, to me, Black men here, they're a few points off, but it's not like significantly like crazy different. Now, I think we see some of the most dramatic differences here when it comes to like high school diploma. But if we take these top 3, because right here, this is some college but no degree. These are people Black men and women who started college but ended. If we combine this right here, right, this is what? Nearly associate's degree and up. That's still a minority of Black women. And when you're talking higher education, that's really about 24%. If you're talking bachelor's degree and up, you know what I mean? That's really about 23% of Black women, bachelor's degree and up. That's still a minority of Black women. So the reason I'm saying that is because, when the way that she's framing it as if successful Black men are rare and successful Black women are not rare. And that's just not true. Successful Black women are rare as well. They're just more vocal about their success. They're just more vocal. And we know this because if you're looking here, like really only about 23% or so of Black women have higher education, bachelor degrees or higher, only about 23%. And we're not even taking into consideration debt. We're not taking into consideration the debt to income ratio. And this is us assuming that getting a college degree equates to a lot of wealth. It doesn't. I mean, just think about the last year, the amount of educated Black women, presumably college educated Black women, who have lost their jobs. So the framing, I understand what she's trying to say. She's trying to position it as if Black women are by themselves are inherently more successful. And that's not necessarily, or that the majority of Black women are successful. That's not true. It's what's been said, but it's actually not necessarily what's going on. And I think that's important to understand because sometimes I feel like sometimes I feel like some ladies can have a chip on their shoulder based upon false ideas, not based upon what's actually happening. Again, guys, like, share, subscribe if you're here. If you like what's going on, y'all know the drill. Show some love on the super chat if you like what's going on. Also, Cash App, Venmo. I'll be sure to acknowledge all super chats and Cash Apps and Venmos. Okay. So, so back to she's talking about, black, blah, 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 black woman overperforming, We kind of briefly broke that down where there's not, from what I can tell, a minority of black women are even getting higher education. Yes, more black women are getting higher education than black men, but it's still a minority. And also, by the way, black men do still make more money than black women, and also black men still have less debt. And so this conversation of there being all the successful black women really needs to be taken into context. Okay, so it says here's the inconvenient part. We are harder to control. Now she's referring to the successful black women. You can't dangle money over us if we make our own. You can't gaslight us if we've already unpacked our trauma in therapy. You can't tell us to be more feminine when we know exactly who we are. Dating a successful black woman is not hard work. It is reflective work. And not everybody wants to look in the mirror. So no, here's the thing. What's also interesting is the way in which she kind of compared successful black men versus successful black women. And she compared it in a way as if men and women are generally judged the same way. And I think that's also a key problem with this particular framing, because she's positioning it as if black women being successful, it's because of their educational attainment. It's because they've gone to therapy. It's because they have been able to build businesses, and it's because they're buying homes. And the problem with that is, while all those things are great and nice, literally none of those things have anything to do with them being seen desirable by men, by black men. See, in the context of this conversation, is not, okay, who's able to build more wealth, or who's able to achieve more, resources, or who is able to achieve more assets. That's not the context of this conversation. The context of this conversation is black love, it's relationships, it's romance. So because the context of this conversation is romance, therefore we should be talking about the things that men are attracted to and women are attracted to. But the problem with this conversation is that she's positioning this from the perspective of what women value. Women value college degrees in men. And we're going to go on to see exactly how she admits that. Women value degrees, houses, women value that. And men could not care less if a woman is a PhD, if she has 3 homes, if she owns 4 multi-million-dollar businesses, if she's unattractive to him, if she has a bad attitude, if she's unkept. They don't care. They don't care. But the problem is, when you see this framing, right, she's comparing, okay, how black men are perceived in the dating market, right, which is successful, educated black men, they're in high demand. She's comparing educated black men being in high demand to educated black women. And what she doesn't understand is that educated black women, they may not be in high demand the way black men are, because women are not valued based upon their education in the romance department. And the Department of Dating and Mating, a woman's education has no bearing. Now, there might be some men who want to educate a woman, maybe because they're attracted to smart women, or they're attracted to women who have a particular skill set or whatever. Like, there's some men who may be attracted to the brain of a woman, or a woman who can think. But I'm saying an education in and of itself has never gotten a man turned on or sexually aroused. Let's just be honest. Like, that's not what does it for them. If a woman looks good in a dress as she is talking about something, or if she looks good as she's carrying her diploma, then okay, they have a conversation. But her just having a degree alone is not necessarily like a make it or break it for a lot of guys, if she's coming with those other qualities. But this is the key issue. And we see this over and over and over again. Women who become successful in the realm of education, women who are able to climb the corporate ladder, they think that somehow those particular things makes them more valuable because that's what they value. And they don't understand that men don't value that, see them in the same way. And then when you have people like, think of Kevin Samuels, the reason that he was so disliked is because He had the nerve to tell these educated PhDs that that didn't matter, and they hated him for that, and they stoned him for that, and they didn't want to listen. But here he is telling you what men actually want, the kind of men, the high value men that they want. Here is he's telling them what they want, and they didn't want to listen. So, and so this is the problem that we run into. This is a problem that we run into. Ladies don't actually understand, and so because they don't understand, I think there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding. There's a lot of false framing in my opinion. So here it says, dating a successful Black woman is not hard work. It's reflective work, and not everybody wants to look in the mirror. And that was what I find fascinating, right? She's framing this as the people who don't want to look in the mirror are Black men. At least to me, that's how it's coming off. Now, here it says a lot of men, especially the ones who feel like they are the prize, want ease. They want admiration without accountability. They want to be coddled, affirmed, mothered. They want a woman who adjusts to them, not one who requires them to grow. And when you are used to being scarce, you start behaving like you are irreplaceable. So basically, she's saying successful, desirable Black men are hard to deal with. That's essentially what she's saying. Successful, educated Black men are hard to deal with. Now, my question for her would be, okay, what are your requirements? She's saying that they want to be coddled, they want to be affirmed, they want to be mothered. Okay. I'm curious what her requirements are. What is it that she's wanting? Because at this point, this is her opinion. She has a right to share her opinion. But in this particular post, she's coming off as the moral hierarchy. She's done therapy, so she's good. She has a college education, so she's good. Like, she's done everything that she needs to do to be ready, set, go in a relationship. Now the issue is these men, even men who were on her level in her class or in her socioeconomic level, they're still not, they haven't reached to the level of moral astuteness that she has. So, reading through this, it's positioning men as essentially these kind of insecure, highly insecure, arrogant, big ego kind of babies who can't accept even minimal pushback, who want to be catered to left and right. And my question just for her would be, okay, let's just assume what you're saying is true. Those are their requirements. Well, what are your requirements? Because you have your requirements too. And when we start to listen to the requirements that some of these ladies have, at times that's when we find out why they're actually struggling. Because sometimes the requirements that they themselves have are equally as unrealistic, equally as dangerous, detrimental, equally as childish. So I would be curious to know what her expectations are. Okay, now here it says, the nostalgia trap. Here it says there's a growing romanticization of our grandparents' era. I just want a traditional woman. I want someone feminine. I'm old fashioned. The problem is not tradition. The problem is selective memory. That era looked stable from the outside. Two-parent households, clear gender roles, defined structure. But for many women in that generation, it also meant enduring cheating, abuse, financial dependence, and silence. It meant staying because you had no options. We do not want to return to a time when we had fewer rights and fewer exits. Okay. So I'm not fully aware of Black men collectively going around and saying, oh, we're trying to remove voting rights for women. We're trying to have women not be able to go to work. We're trying to keep women from education. Like, I don't know any large movement of Black men who were collectively trying to put Black women back, like, on the plantation. I'm not familiar with that, so I'm not totally understanding this framing. But if what she's talking about is the desire for some of these men to want traditional women, that's because a lot of these ladies are still actually requiring patriarchal standards. So by patriarchal standards, hypergamy, right? A man who is as successful, primarily or arguably or desirably more successful than me. He makes more money. He has, more houses, more cars. He has better degrees. He has higher status. He's able to put me in a higher position. He can protect and provide. And he can not even lead, he can co-lead, but not even really co-lead. He can take my instructions. Because like I said, women want to kind of oftentimes be in this driver's seat, but they still want the protection and the provision. And ultimately, for the man to foot the bill. That's a lot of these ladies. They still ultimately want the man to fit the bill because that makes them feel like women who are kept and taken care of. And so that's why, under that context, these men are like, "Well, I want a traditional woman because they're like, okay, well, if you have traditional requirements of me that are patriarchal, if you're requiring me under this current economy to protect, to provide, to go out there and make it happen, to make the money, to bring home the bacon and the bread, to basically try to secure a luxurious, not even a stable, a luxurious lifestyle, because a successful college educated woman is going to want a luxurious lifestyle. He's like, if you're going to require that of me, the return of my investment should be a traditional woman. So context matters. Context, I think, matters. And that's why a lot of these dudes are pushing back. They're saying, well, you still have patriarchal 1940s, 1950s dating standards, but want me to be, all feminist and liberal, but don't want to give me the same, don't necessarily want to give me the same decency. And again, that's not really a good deal. That's not a good deal. Okay. Here it says, and yet I've noticed many Black men are either apolitical, agnostic to social issues, or quietly conservative in ways that directly impact women's autonomy. There's a longing for simpler times without acknowledgement of who those times were simple for. Nostalgia is easy when history was kind to you. It is less charming when it wasn't. So I think to look in the past and assume that times were simpler for Black men is, I mean, I don't even know how to describe that, but I think that is highly disrespectful. There's never been a time for Black women or Black men in America where it was a simpler time. So if she's positioning it as if back in the day in the 1940s, Black men were just, these big patriarchs who were, going to work every single day, being respected in the community, and then coming home and beating their wives and making sure that the food was ready at, 4 o'clock, and that they had these plantations full of Black women who were just serving them. Like, I don't understand this narrative or this picture that's being painted, but I'm like, there's not been a time for Black women or Black men in America where it's been simple. So let's not pretend like Black men were not struggling and suffering in these times. And the times that she's referring to, let's not pretend like there was not racial terrorism. My family ended up in California because of racial terrorism, because of folks being men and women running from the Klan. Like, let's not pretend like that stuff wasn't happening. I find this stuff very disrespectful when we look at what happened to our ancestors and then paint this whole narrative just because we're having a bad experience in 2026. That's not okay. So there was not a time that was simple for men or women. There was not. Now, they were working together because it was a different time, different resources, different mentality. But it wasn't easier for Black men in the 40s and the 30s. It was not easier for Black men at all. Racial terrorism was directed at them. And today it still is, to a certain extent. So it's like we have to stop with these kind of nonsense. Okay. Says, I'm pro-Black, I'm anti-struggle. Here it says, this is the part that makes people uncomfortable. As Black people, so much of our collective achievement has come through struggle, survival, endurance, resistance. We've been taught that if it costs you something, it's valuable. If it hurts, it's meaningful. But some things along the way, that logic bled into love. We normalized chaos as chemistry. We labeled instability as passion. We rebranded inconsistency as he's just figuring it out. And if she stays, she's loyal, she's a ride or die. Okay, so now she's talking about, I don't understand why she's connecting being pro-Black or ultimately being a person who loves and believes in your community and is doing things to try to empower your community. I don't understand why that has to be connected to like struggle love. And to me, this is where I feel like it's a bit of a false dichotomy. It is totally and completely okay and possible to be a person who loves your community, who invests in your community, who believes in your community, and at the same time is not sitting up here becoming a prison bae and marrying Pookie and Ray Ray, who's running in and out of jail. But the way that she's framing, and she's not saying it directly, but the framing here to me is as if they're synonymous, as if in order to be pro-Black, you have to be connected to men who haven't figured out their life. Because notice here where she says, we branded inconsistency as he's just figuring it out. Okay, so successful, high-value Black, well, they're not figuring it out. So to me, it's like, okay, what kind of men are you talking about? Right now, you're saying your experience is dealing with successful Black men, but then down here, you're saying, oh, but these men are just trying to figure it out. Well, who are you dating? And to me, based upon what's being said here, it's clear that she's not dating successful Black men. That has not been her experience, because successful, high value Black men who are in high demand, as she said, are not out here trying to figure it out. Now, they may not know everything, but they have a vision. They have some form of a plan. They're not going to be wishy-washy and consistent. They're not going to be, I'm living here on Monday and then Tuesday I'm trying to figure it out, and then I'm struggling, and can you slide me a five? Like, they're not doing that. So already, to me, I'm like, okay, so you're beating or you're saying that the problem is successful Black men. But right here, I'm like, high key, it's sounding as if you've dealt with pookies. Am I tripping? Am I like, am I tripping, y'all? Like, because to me, when I'm reading through this, I'm like, the way this is framed, she's making it as if pro-Blackness is pro-Black and like prison bays are synonymous. That don't make no sense to me. That don't make no sense to me. You can be pro-Black, quote pro-Black, or put another way, you can just actually love and have a healthy mindset about your community and believe in trying to help your community. Because we got to stop with these terms. It's like pro-Black. It's like, you mean you love yourself? You can be a person who loves yourself and loves your people and not be sitting up here trying to marry up a felon, trying to be a wife to a felon. Like, you can do that. They're not synonymous. Y'all, I don't understand this stuff. Okay. Now here it says, but I do not want to endure love. I want to rest in it. I want love to regulate my nervous system, not fry it. I want it to be a refuge from the world, not another battleground. I want consistency without confusion, affection without anxiety, commitment without coercion. Struggle built our ancestors. It does not need to be the down payment for my marriage. Y'all, I'm halfway through. I'm just getting warmed up. I am getting warmed up. And I literally have to hop off because I have to go to an appointment. So I want to continue this conversation. This looks like this is about to be a part. I was like, I'm going to finish this my part 3. And nope, we're about to do part 4, you guys. We're about to do part 4 because I want to finish breaking this down. And I have like literally 2 follow-up posts to this. I wanted to go over some of the comments. We see comments from popular people like Jackie Aina, Dr. Boyce Walk. So we got a lot to cover off, but I have to hop off because I have to go to an appointment. I just realized. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you. I want you guys to like, share, subscribe. We have some more to cover off. So stay tuned. Thank y'all for bearing with me. I promise we're going to get through these topics. It's just when we start getting warmed up. There's a lot to unpack here, but I'm going to end with this video.
Never dated anyone before, and honestly, at this point, I'm afraid to because men are scary and evil. They're scary and evil. What if one day he wakes up and decides he hates me and wants to kill me? What if he has a secret group chat where he's racist about me to all of his friends? What if one day we have this beautiful family and he loses his job and he's like, actually, you know what? I'll kill myself and kill my entire family. Men are really scary. They're really scary and evil. Or what if he just pretends to like me so that he can have sex with me? What if he does that? What if he just pretends to like me so that he can have sex with one of my friends? I don't know. Men are scary and evil, and I want to be in a relationship, but I don't know if I'm sweating it that much when I realize that most men are evil.
Okay, sweet.